Hello, and thank you for joining me at Spooky Reviews. I'm the Ghostess, and I am a sucker for a solid aesthetic. A movie can have an amazing script, terrific performances, and truly gruesome kills, but it just doesn't feel like horror without the right style. From costuming to color schemes and cinematography to sound design and score, when a director finds a way to really tie the room together, it gets that mwah, chef's kiss seal of approval from me. I want that jaw-dropping, eye-popping, breath-stopping wonder that makes me say, I want to go to there. I've analyzed over 1,000 horror movies, and I think I've finally narrowed down the ones that best represent atmospheric excellence. So, without further ado, here are the top 13 eeriest horror movies of all time. Let's begin our countdown with number 13. The Love Witch, 2016. Bewitching beauty seeks love through supernatural means. This is a perfect example of a movie that gets absolute top-notch score in only one category. I wouldn't exactly call it scary, and while there is some suspense to it, this is less of a horror movie and more of meandering acid trip through gender role extreme. The entire tone is designed around replicating something from the 60s. In film quality, set design, and even the stilted acting, without ever tipping all the way into seeming intentionally campy. The bright, saturated colors in the set design and costuming match the Rider-Waite deck tarot cards seen throughout the film, and help to create a dream world that radiates out from the main character, who too seems disconnected from time and reality. The overall effect is surreal, and must be seen to be believed. Number 12. The Changeling, 1980. A composer grieving the loss of his family investigates the hauntings in his new home. George C. Scott's performance anchors the somber tone, but the musical score, sound design, and set do a lot of the heavy lifting in this ghost story. It's definitely got more anguish than angst. And you can feel the sense of isolation and abandonment, just in how certain locations are shot. You get invested in the mystery, even though there's never really a sense that the protagonist is in peril. And while it could have taken more measures to make it more thrilling, it still pulls some unexpected scares out of its pocket. It's a fantastic film you don't want to miss out on. Number 11. The Witch, 2015. Robert Eggers' Puritan period piece provides a bleak yet thought-provoking peek into the past, following the diabolical undoings of a devoutly religious family in diaspora. I wasn't in love with this movie when I first saw it, but it has really grown on me over time. Eggers did his best to try to replicate life in New England in the 1600s, with historically accurate dialogue that is sometimes hard to understand. But the visual storytelling is effective enough that I could always follow the plot. Sometimes the soundtrack gets a little like, ooh, for me. But when it comes to overall presentation, I really have to applaud this picture. It's uniquely unnerving, effortlessly eerie, and absolutely something you should check out. Number 10. Blood and Black Lace, 1964. A mysterious masked killer slaughters their way through supermodels. 2 words: bloody beautiful. Mario Bava combines scandalous secrets with stylish fashion, and corpses with couture, in this brilliant little slasher whodunit. The murders are sadistic, and the blood is so scarlet it matches the lipstick of its victims. It mixes dark and stormy night in a spooky manner with glitz and glamour, all set to a bossa nova boogie that makes for a gory and groovy good time. Number 9. Un couteau dans le cœur, aka Knife Plus Heart, 2018. A group of French pornographers parody the crime spree killing off their performers in this stylish little thriller. Set in late 70s Paris, this film has a party vibe dripping with noir, full of in-your-face queerness and unabashed sexuality. I mean, the killer's main weapon is a switchblade dildo. The frenetic rhythm takes you from story beat to story beat, complete with neon nightclub chase scenes. It's brutal, beautiful, bittersweet, but also never takes itself so seriously that you can enjoy it. And definitely a film I recommend to anyone who likes a well-paced thriller for the ages. Number 8. The Haunting, 1963. Based on the Shirley Jackson novel The Haunting of Hill House, a group of strangers gather to study the paranormal in an infamously haunted manor. There was also a remake in 1999, which is hands down one of the worst movies ever, and a Mike Flanagan Netflix series, which is spectacular but has fuck all to do with the source material. The only thing all three versions get right is the set, and by far the most haunted of the three is the 1960s version, which uses camera angles, shadows, and mirrors to create some fabulous shots and optical illusions, which helps us get into the unraveling mind of the protagonist. The Haunting is a classic ghost story with a strong foundation, good bones, and definitely worth visiting. Number 7. Carrie, 1976. A shy, sheltered, and bullied teenage girl develops psychic superpowers in this adaptation of Stephen King's first novel. Brian De Palma utilized a lot of interesting editing techniques, some more effective than others, with the split screens and layered imagery, giving you a feel for what it's like inside this girl's head. And it created a tone that blends supernatural teen slasher with after-school special, and a drama about the horrific effects of religious zealotry and repression. While the end sequences are definitely the most notorious, the film builds up to it very well, and makes everything that follows a logical conclusion to the story. There have been other versions of Carrie made. This one definitely has my vote for prom queen. Number 6. Midsummer, 2019. It was honestly a bit of a toss-up between this and Hereditary, and while Hereditary had some spectacular acting and pretty cool dollhouse imagery, for me, Midsummer takes the cake when it comes to style and tone. You don't see a lot of horror movies that take place during the day, and after the gloom and doom, dark gray of the beginning, you get caught up in the sunshine and flowers, so the dark content acts as more of a contrast, and mixes together a disorienting cocktail. Both stories have emotional intensity, but Midsummer feels less one note, and all the little things click into place just a bit better. But if you like your stories with gut-punching performances and polished production, then Eeriest might just be up your alley. Number 5. Barbarian Sound Studio, 2012. An Italian studio hires a British audio engineer to do the sound design for their disturbing new giallo. This film is a one-of-a-kind, unnerving sensory experience. While we can tell that what's happening in the film within the film is horrifying, we don't ever really see it. Instead, hearing descriptions from the projectionist and the screams of the actresses while seeing the reaction on Toby Jones's face. So even though he's just frying bacon and chopping vegetables, his actions feel violent, and the entire soundscape fills you with this sense of dread that builds as the story gets more surreal. Without a drop of blood, it still feels shocking and gives me a visceral reaction, akin to ASMR from hell. I acknowledge it's not the kind of horror movie for everyone, but if you think you might like a trippy little tour through sound designer secrets, this is definitely for you. Number 4. Suspiria, 1977. Mysterious deaths and disappearances surround a German dance academy in this hauntingly beautiful giallo fantasy. For me, this is Dario Argento at his most magnificent. In the original screenplay, the protagonist was much younger, and the childishly innocent dialogue adds to the dark fairy tale feel of the feature. Its use of light, shadow, and jewel tones also gives it a girlish softness, which contrasts heavily against the totally unhinged death scenes. While I do honestly love the 2018 remake, particularly how they incorporate their dance with their witchcraft and the absolute brutality of Olga's death. But for my time and my dime, the original packs more magic into every moment and always makes me come back for more. Number 3. A Tale of Two Sisters, 2003. This Korean psychological drama is accented perfectly by stellar cinematography, committed performances, and an absolutely exquisite atmosphere. The set is layered thick in shadows, with only little pops of color that, like the moments of sisterly bonding, add an optimistic glimmer to an otherwise gloomy mood. The 2009 American remake, The Uninvited, is as embarrassingly simplified and generic as its new title suggests. The original holds its mystery much closer to the chest, with a far better twist and a perfect blend of the psychological and supernatural. It'll stab a knife in your heart and make it twist, but it's well worth the risk for such wonderful rewards. Number 2. Alien, 1979. It's expert craftsmanship from tooth to tail. Jump scares? Terrifying. Concepts? Disturbing. Cast? Flawless. Special effects? Don't even get me started. Goosebumps? All over the place. But since I told myself every movie was only going to make it onto one countdown list, it really had to be the one that was talking about sound design, set design, score, and cinematography. Because this movie looks incredible. Its silence is better than most other movies' whole scores. And while much of my hat tipping is off to director Ridley Scott, the brilliance of this overall art design lies in the incredible hands of Swiss artist H.R. Giger. Using his signature biomechanical style with its psychosexual overtones, Giger gives you this sense of unease that pulsates out of the screen. The creature design is unlike anything you've seen before, and even the other films in this franchise can't manage to replicate how perfect it was. It even won at the Oscars for Best Visual Effects and Production Design. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see. This film is totally out of this world on a planet all its own. And here are a few more eerie entries that didn't quite make the cut. And the number one eeriest horror movie of all time is The Shining, 1980. As big of a Stephen King fan as I am, Stanley Kubrick's adaptation is one of my favorite films of all time, and I believe he smartly used the source material to create imagery that is unforgettably iconic to the genre. I watched it when I was a little too young, so it's been burned into my brain for all eternity, and I do not have a problem with that. This film is audio-visual perfection. Even with a 146-minute runtime, not a second on the screen is wasted. Throughout the entire set design, the color scheme is rich and intense, full of these geometric patterns that tie in nicely with the maze imagery throughout the film, not just in the topiary hedges, but around every bending corner of the set. And that sound design. I mean, just listen to the rhythm created by Danny going from hardwood to carpeting on his big wheel. This film is entirely about atmosphere, with Wendy Carlos providing a score that perfectly times this tightrope walk of tension and a sense of unease created by isolation in a space that seems equally endless and intensely claustrophobic, especially when you're sharing it with a man going mad. Jack Nicholson's entire performance radiates hostility, while Shelley Duvall spends the entire film trembling in fear, and every scene they share echoes on the brink of madness. It's artfully epic horror filmmaking at its most phenomenal, and densely packed with so much imagery that it inspired an entire conspiracy theory documentary. Truly no other horror movie embodies eeriness quite like this one, and no matter what the list, it's always number one in my heart. So those were, in my humble opinion, the 13 eeriest horror movies of all time. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to check out the rest of this series. Follow me at Spooky Ghostess on Twitter, and join me next time for another spooky review. Boo for now!